Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. This is the Open Applied Linguistics Reading Club, Meet the Authors series. We are so excited today to welcome Shuhui Yin and Professor Carol Chapelle from University of Iowa State University in the US to talk about GenAI use guidance in applied linguistics. This is based on an article published on research methods in applied linguistics. Our esteemed guest, Shuhui Yin, is currently a PhD candidate in the Applied Linguistics and Technology program at Iowa State University. She received her master's degree in linguistics and applied linguistics in foreign languages from the University of Chinese Academy of Sciences. Her primary research interests are corpus-informed research in second language writing, genre analysis, English for academic purposes, and language assessment. She has experience in teaching EFL courses to learners at secondary and undergraduate levels. Professor Carol A. Chapelle is Distinguished Professor and Dean's Professor in Liberal Arts and Sciences at Iowa State University. Her recent books include Argument-Based Validation in Testing and Assessment and the Handbook of Technology and Language Learning and Teaching. She is editor of the Encyclopedia of Applied Linguistics, as well as co-editor of the Cambridge Applied Linguistics series. She is past president of the American Association for Applied Linguistics, former co-editor of Language Testing, and former editor of TESOL Quarterly. Welcome, Shuhui and Carol. So the agenda is that Carol and Shuhui prepare slides, so they will talk about the articles. After that, please feel free to raise your questions either in the chat, I have prepared some guiding questions as well. So please, take a look at the reading to think about your questions. Yeah, over to you, Shuhui.
Okay, thank you for the introduction and thank you for inviting us. I'm Shuhui and also this is Dr. Chapelle.
Hello.
Yeah, so we are here today to talk about our article, A Systematic Examination of Generative Artificial Intelligence GenAI Use in Applied Linguistic Journals in Research Method in Applied Linguistics. So thank you for all the interesting questions. We prepared a couple slides and think it can address the question more effectively. So first, we can move to question 1. Yes. So
let me just read the question first, and then we'll talk about our responses. Okay, so these are the questions that we were provided. What initially motivated you to study generative AI guidelines in applied linguistics journals? And why did you feel this topic was timely and important for the field? Okay, so part 1 first.
Okay, so for part 1, let me first explain the motivations of our study. If you are not familiar about Iowa State, the applied linguistics program here is technology focused, and we have some research groups like GenAI, and we also have Dr. Carol Chapelle, and we also have TSL conference, Technology for Second Language Learning, and which happens here every year. I attended one plenary speech in the TSLL conference in 2023 by Professor Mike Sharples, and I was impressed by his recommendation. New guidelines and new methods are needed for GenAI use in higher education context. because I'm always interested in the field of English for research publication purposes. So I got too curious about what kind of new guidelines have been formulated by journals in research context for academic researchers. This motivated me to collaborate with one research article in medical field and the guidelines across medical journals. The findings are very interesting, so we kind of borrowed that to apply linguistic field. And next, I think Dr. Chapelle can talk more about why this topic was timely and important for this field.
Yeah, because when Shuhui suggested this topic to me, I thought, wow, that would be great, because everything, we could see that GenAI was useful to people because they're so excited about it, and people were doing all sorts of different things with, language analysis and trying it out in classrooms for feedback and models for students and just all sorts of things. So we knew that it was useful, but at the same time, we knew that there was really no consensus for what was considered acceptable. And so at this time, we were going back and forth with our institutional review board, the human subjects approval, questions about what journals we're going to accept. I mean, it just seemed like really the Wild West. And we're in the Midwest here. So we wanted to get a little more order, try to see what was going on in the field a little bit more by getting some evidence about what the actual practices are in the field. And we noticed that there was really, there had really been a lack of attention focused directly on this issue in applied linguistics. So we did a study.
Yes. And then question 2.
Okay. So your paper proposes the new construct of GenAI literacy for research article writing. Could you elaborate on how GenAI for research article writing differs from traditional GenAI literacy frameworks, and how researchers can develop such literacy? Okay, so multiple parts to that.
Yes. So first part, how GenAI literacy for research differs from traditional AI literacy framework. I remember when I take my statistics class, the professor mentioned when you make decisions on a data analysis method, context is important. And similarly, we think for AI literacy, as you can see in the middle of the slide, is kind of an umbrella and including 3 aspects like knowledge, skills, and ethics. However, under this umbrella, there are many different AI literacy constructs. For example, AI literacy for students, AI literacy for teachers, AI literacy for assessment developers. One main difference among these are they are situated in different contexts and are proposed for different populations. So we propose GenAI literacy for research article writing for academic researchers, and think this construct and traditional AI literacy constructs are different constructs but have overlaps, and they are all under the umbrella of AI literacy. And yeah, I think yeah.
So how can researchers develop such literacy? Well, we didn't really study this, but at the end of our article, we did make some suggestions. And we start with, and I think here we see the utility of having a construct of GenAI literacy for research, because it gives us something to target for our own understanding of GenAI in our work, and also for teaching new researchers. So with the 3 domains of knowledge, knowledge, skills, and ethics, there are some things that seem like one could work toward in order to develop those. So with respect to knowledge, simply knowing about the capacities and limitations in specific research practices. So for the kind of research that you do, understanding and really scrutinizing what GenAI can do. And for application skills, I think there is a need to always evaluate and fact check any output that you get from generative AI. I mean, my proposal in our graduate programs is that anyone who's using GenAI in their research should also have a component that evaluates that GenAI in their research. And second, disclose GenAI use. So be very deliberate about how you're using it, so it doesn't get, folded into your other activities, so that you can't disambiguate what the GenAI contributed and you contributed. And then with respect to ethics, search and review GenAI guidelines provided for authors. Okay, and there are guidelines we found in many of the journals. Contact the journal editors for clarification when there's uncertainty, and then adhere to the journal instructions to ensure responsible GenAI use. And we'll talk a little bit more about those guidelines in response to future questions.
Thank you, Dr. Chapelle. And question 3.
So you found considerable disagreements among journals about acceptable GenAI practices. Okay, so this gets tricky here when you're trying to follow what the journals say. And then what do you think are the reasons for these disagreements, and so on. But first, let's go back and take a look at what we mean by disagreements, because we have kind of a complex but very informative figure for this.
Yes. Yeah, so this figure shows the 17 specific aspects for GenAI uses across journals, publishers, and organizations. The x-axis represents the specific aspects like manuscript drafting, image generating, idea generating, and the y-axis here represents journals, publishers, and organizations. And basically, the blue color represents permitting, and the red color means prohibiting. As we can see very clearly here, there are completely agreement, like in the first column, about authorship eligibility. And what we want to focus on now is about some examples about disagreement, highlighted in the black box here. Manuscript drafting, idea generating, and image generating. So we can say journals kind of like have disagreements in such aspects. And yeah.
And so what do you think these disagreements reveal about the epistemological values of applied linguistics as a discipline? Should we see this variation as a problem or a natural reflection of disciplinary diversity?
Yeah, so we grouped the journals and tried to say if journals within the same applied linguistics subfield adopt similar GenAI guidelines, but there isn't really a pattern, and journals with similar scopes can adopt very different AI policies. And instead, we found publishers tended to play a bigger role than these subfields of one discipline. And for variations, we think it is more likely to reflect multiple interacting factors like journals, editorial board, and publisher. And also overall, we found many journals were lagging behind in formulating these AI guidelines. And I think Dr. Chapelle may have more to add on.
Yeah, because it seemed like in many cases the journals were more uncertain about their guidelines, and so they just referred to the publishers, and so that let the publishers take care of it during this time when maybe people who would have a say about a specific journal maybe wouldn't really know what to say.
Yes. So,
okay, so question 4. Only a small fraction of journals addressed GenAI use in data collection, generation, or analysis. So why do you think that data-related issues receive so little attention? Okay, so I think we have first a description of that part, the use of AI for collection, generation, and analysis.
Yes. So to make these data-relevant activities more concrete, we include one example journal language testing. This journal formulates its own guidelines at journal level and have formulated some relevant guidelines to regulate data-relevant activities. And on the right part are some quotations from the journal's AI policies. As we can see here about its regulation about generating data, the journal mentioned it is only acceptable to use GenAI to generate data in simulation studies, that is, computer experiments designed to evaluate statistical methods and use synthetic data. And also, GenAI must not be used to fabricate or falsify data. These are serious forms of research misconduct. And also, for use of GenAI for data analysis, the journal noted that GenAI may be used to code and analyze data. And the use of GenAI to analyze qualitative data requires informed consent from participants in their data. And also, authors should be aware of the data leaks. And we think two possible reasons for less journal addressing this issue are test relevant activities are kind of more visible compared to data relevant practices, and also data related activities are not widely understood. And Dr. Chapelle, may have more explanations on this.
Yeah, I mean, we really discussed this question quite a bit and kind of resolved that a lot of people don't really understand what these data related activities are. That we've got people here who are working with GenAI for lots of different things, including having the GenAI, or really evaluating the extent to which the GenAI can do the linguistic analysis for them, for the discourse analysis studies. And I think this kind of activity, it involves so many different things for so many different purposes. And so that's kind of hidden. Or how about in language assessment, where can we have the AI produce evaluations of the learner's language? Can we have the AI provide feedback on the learner's language, and then use that feedback as part of the research activity? So I mean, I think it's really mixed in. It's really integral to some of the specific research projects that people are working on, which are very complex. And so I think we have a ways to go on better understanding these uses.
And question 5.
Okay, you found contradictions between some journal level policies and publisher level policies. So this was quite interesting, and then we'll talk about what's driving these.
Yeah. So first, we will start by introducing two specific examples to show what does these contradictions look like. So again, in this figure, as we can see, the journals are on the top, publishers in the middle, and organizations on the bottom. And one example is journals TESOL Quarterly and TESOL Journal. And there are conflicts between the two journals with its publisher Wiley. And the specific aspects highlighted in the yellow circles are the aspects they have contradicts. And here we can say the aspects are data generation, data collection, and data analysis. The second example is about language testing and its publisher Sage. And the aspect they have conflicts is manuscript drafting. And we will look at the specific quotations to have a more specific idea about these disagreements and contradictions. And here is the AI guidelines in TESOL Quarterly. This journal formulates its own guidelines at the journal level, and as we can see in the red boxes here, it also followed the organization COPE, the Committee on Publication Ethics, and also its publisher Wiley. And the statement in a second paragraph, AI may be used to generate prompts, instruments, or code to analyze data or to generate data, which means this journal allows the practices about data generating, data collecting, and data analysis. However, Wiley in its guideline, it mentioned GenAI tools must not be used to create, alter, or manipulate original research data and results. So we can say the conflicts here. And the second example, language testing, also it follows the SAGE guideline and formulated guidelines at the journal level. And this part is journal's AI policy. It mentioned GenAI must not be used to generate the content for the manuscript beyond making editorial corrections. However, for the publisher Sage, it noted the use of AI tools that can produce content, such as generating references, text, images, or any other forms of content must be disclosed, which means there are conflicts on the manuscript drafting. And why do you think, what do you think is driving these mismatches? We identified three main reasons. The first reason is there are multiple authoritative layers in the scholarly publishing context, like individual researchers, journal-level policies, publisher-level policies, and external publishing organizations like COPE. And second, there are complex interconnected relationships across these layers we just talked about. And third, these different layers usually adopt different speed to formulate these guidelines. And one interesting thing we found is Elsewhere just updated its AI policies. So previously, these are some selected example journals for Elsewhere. Previously, Elsewhere have the strictest guidelines for AI use, but then after updating, it tend to be more liberal. So before updating, Elsewhere mentioned GenAI and AI-assisted technologies should only be used to improve the readability and language of the manuscript. And after updating, the Elsewhere journals mentioned it recognized the potential of GenAI and AI-assisted technologies, and when used responsibly to help researchers do research more effectively. And increasingly, these tools, including AI agent and deep research tools, can help researchers to synthesize complex literature, provide overview of field, even identify research gaps, generate ideas, and also provide tailored support for tasks like content organization and improving language and readability. So right now is, pretty liberal. And also, who should have the final authority in establishing these GenAI rules? We think it's more like collaborative efforts, but at individual level, each of us maybe can play a part in our respective roles, like as researchers or journal editor. And Dr. Chapelle and I also discussed, like, when we say the updated AI policies by Elsewhere, we are like, okay, there's no final policies for this. And Dr. Chapelle can add more, I think.
Yeah, so I guess this, our study really shows the importance of a quick route to publication, because by the time we published our paper, some of the data we worked with had changed.
Yes.
So, but I think during this time where there are a lot of changes, that it seems important to me to have events like what we're doing right now, but also other discussions at a professional level. I mean, we saw one of the things that Shuhui has found in the medical journals, in our journals, our papers discussing these issues. Okay, and so these are issues that they've really changed the way we work in applied linguistics. I mean, the machine creates language, right? I mean, it's central to what we do. And so I think, acknowledging that we're really in a new age here, and engaging with that and discussing with it and discussing about it and evaluating it along the way is particularly useful.
So that's what we prepared for the 5 questions, and we welcome more questions or any comments.
Thank you so much, Shuhui and Carol. That's really thought-provoking and detailed answer to the questions. I think it really extends the article. It's really great that everyone who read the article can manage to find our recording somewhere on the internet and really deepen the understanding. Yeah, I think that were the questions. That were the guiding questions we prepare for Shuhui and Carol to answer. But any questions from the audience? You may be busy typing, but take your time. While I was listening to your answers, I will ask a question first. I noticed the very detailed guideline provided by Language Testing Journal. They explicitly said that if you use AI to generate to analyze the data, you need the participants' informed consent. So one thing that popped into my mind is that because the process of conducting research takes so long, it could happen that during the ethical approval stage, the institution didn't ask for it, and the authors weren't aware of it. But by the time they submit to the journal, they realize, oh, we use AI to analyze the data, and we didn't ask the participants for consent. And what do they do? I mean, just something, some possible scenario pop into my mind that, the journal may have some requirements about this and that, but, when the articles prepare at that specific stage of their research, they may not be aware of that journal. They may not even know what journal they are going to submit for. And that, could that be a problem? I just want to hear whether you feel the same dilemma.
Yeah, well, I
Yes, I
think
do.
we are all facing this. I mean, we're having as I was saying, our institutional review board tells us different things on different days on this topic, and the journal guidelines are changing. I think as researchers, all we can do is what I always think it's a good idea to know what journal or what couple of journals we're going to send our manuscripts to start with.
Yes,
So,
yes,
so
sure.
I think this situation really emphasizes that need to check out what the journal policy is while you're doing the research. You can't keep it from changing during the research, but I think also though just awareness of these kinds of issues that are being raised with respect to participants' data. I mean, I think we all need to know this and maybe know ahead of time that this is something we need to deal with. We need to think about in our research. So yeah, it's all awareness building, I think.
Thank you so much. I saw some questions, and David has a question. David, do you want me to read the question for you, or you are welcome to turn on your mic if you like. But the question is, what gaps in current GenAI guidelines pose the greatest risk to research integrity within applied linguistics?
We'd have to go back to our figure to look at that, wouldn't we? Because in the figure, any of the area that's gray is just not specified. And so where we see big blocks of gray on particular categories of research activities, then we can ask the question, is this problematic? Yeah, so kind of in the middle there, there's a lot of gray. Kind of at the beginning and the end, there's a lot of no at the beginning, a lot of yes until the very end. Those I can't read the categories. Shuhui, which one of those gray areas do you think is probably most significant? I guess one way of looking at it is look at where there's a lot of gray.
Yeah.
And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so it's gray in a lot of journals,
Oh, yeah.
and it's red in some journals. So red means prohibited, but then in all these other journals, it's just not even mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah, this item is idea generating.
Okay, which is pretty big, I think. I tell my students that they should be generating their own ideas for their research. And so we've got a lot of journals that, well, you know, it's just not mentioned. So yeah, that's a really good question. But I think you can look, you know, you use the figure in that way and see what you think. I mean, and see what for your research and for what, you know, people you're working with. I mean, what's the meaning of all of these unspecified things for what we're seeing published in our field?
Thank you. This is a really useful figure.
Okay, I see a hand up.
Yes.
And a camera on.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
There, Kristen.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for this research and for providing this opportunity. Last year, I taught an MA level seminar on the ethics and affordances of generative AI for applied linguistics. And this very topic is one that I had suggested to students as a possible research topic, and no one took it up. But I think it's really important.
We did.
Thank you. And so I would love, just a technical question before I get to my my other question. I would love to include this as a course reading when I reteach the course this spring. If you wouldn't mind just putting the reference again in the chat or sharing the document. I'd lost track of the full article reference. It's out already or not yet?
Yeah, it was published this past summer. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then my question is, were you surprised by any of the findings?
Shuhui, were you surprised?
For the findings, kind of.
Okay, because you looked at the medical research first, and so.
Yeah. So the findings, it's surprising when you say that, like, if a journal have a guideline or not, and also how they formulate the guidelines, how they regulate the practice, is more relevant to the publisher. And sometimes publisher will say, okay, so for the specific guidelines, you need to say the specific journals. And at the same time, the journals will say, okay, we are like follow our publisher's guidelines well. And yeah, so the relationship is very complex. So yeah, that is one surprising thing. It's like it's more complex than I expect. And also journals kind of lag behind, but actually like how we can improve this, I'm not sure what we can do at the practice level, because we all know we need to formulate guidelines, but how can we proceed this? Yeah.
Yeah, for me, you gave me a chance to think, Shuhui. For me, just thinking back of when we were first looking at these results, I guess I wasn't terribly surprised, I don't think, because I've been a journal editor before. And actually, it reminded me of about the year 2000, when we revised the TESOL quarterly guidelines pretty dramatically. Prior to that, there were really about quantitative research, and we with the editorial board, we created new guidelines that were more inclusive of the variety of research that's done in the field, and that was that work, that effort, engaging the editorial advisory board in that way, seemed to be a new thing to everybody. It just seemed like, so I guess today, yeah, editorial boards are doing more of that kind of thing, but still, when it gets to an issue like this that is so complicated, and you do have this relationship with the publisher. I mean, we academics, like to be in charge of things, but at the end of the day, it's the publisher that has the liability for what's published, and has the business side of the practices in mind. And so you are, as Shuhui said, I mean, it is this complex relationship, which I guess to me, in a complex relationship, you shouldn't be surprised at, kind of difficult to explain outcomes.
Thank you.
And also the location of the AI guidelines is not easy to find for journals. And also some journals like Taylor and Francis, yeah, there's no AI policies on the journal's website. But if you like search the website for the publisher, and there are clear AI guidelines, but not every researcher will go to find the publisher's guidelines when they submit an article to find how they can use AI properly. Yeah.
Okay, so Krista, maybe this was kind of a hard research project for the people you were teaching. It was extremely complicated. And we would just go back and forth, and Shuhui would be digging around and stuff. And I found this. Well, can we use there was a lot of interpreting to do. And I used my experience as a journal editor to make to contribute to our decisions about what to do.
Well, thank you so much for doing this work. Really appreciate it.
We have another question in the chat about the decision on a particular article because of strict AI use. So if an article is rejected by an editor because of some kinds of AI use, but the publisher's policy actually allows it, is, how should authors respond to that decision? And and what might, what would the editor say?
I mean, that's hard. Okay, so I'll put my editor hat back on again. It's hard to imagine a single scenario like that. There's so many ways that a paper could not be accepted, right? And the AI use might be in the mix of that. The AI use might have been suspected by the editor, because typically when a manuscript comes to the journal, first the editor reads it and decides whether it's appropriate to send out for review, because reviewers do not like editors to send manuscripts that just are clearly not very good. So the editor has that responsibility to start with. Okay, so if the editor determines that, you know, there's just too much AI in this, or looks too AI, or doesn't seem right, then I don't know that in my case anyway, I'm not sure I would send a letter saying this looks too much AI. I would send a letter probably saying that the journal, you know, the paper didn't seem appropriate for the journal. Okay, so maybe the messaging there wouldn't be entirely clear. Okay, so what if though the paper looks ready to be reviewed, the editor sends it to reviewers, and in one of the reviews, one of the things that the reviewer says is, there's so much of this generated by AI. This isn't really, you know, it was generated by AI, and it wasn't really, the AI wasn't really evaluated or described in any way. And so it's just unacceptable, you know, in that way. So that reviewer doesn't accept it. Well, then the editor is going to probably send author a rejection of the manuscript and the reviews from the reviewers. Okay, so at that point, the editor is going to say, you could revise this and resubmit it, and don't use AI. Or the editor is going to say, maybe you can find a journal that would fit in better. And so then you're going to have, so the editor is going to tell you one way or the other. If the editor says the editor does not want that paper, then that's really the end of that for that journal. But typically you can take those reviewers' comments and you can make revisions that will help you submit it to another journal. So I guess there isn't really a very clear answer to the question. Send a follow-up question if there's if you have a more specific scenario.
I guess if, you know, a paper gets rejected, there must be some kind of reason that the editor may, you know, specify that they may not explicitly say because only for AI, but, you know, the reviewers might provide some reasons. And I guess we would just need to be aware of, you know, I mean, your study is really useful because we get to see that some journals allow this, but the publisher doesn't allow that. And we might have to, you know, as authors, find a golden mean, you know, find a common ground or something, and be integrate and responsible for our research as always. And
and I think explaining how you use the AI. I mean, that's the if you don't want to get reviews back saying, hey, this looks like it was written by AI. Hey, it looks like you had the AI evaluate the students' papers, or whatever. You need to explain in the paper where you use the AI, what you use the AI for. Let's see, one of the things I submitted recently, the submission system, I think this was from Elsevier, it had a box saying, describe how you used AI in writing this paper. Well, you want to put something in that box in order to not have people guessing how you used AI. Because I think that's the most I don't know, frustrating thing. I think if you're writing something and somebody is judging it as being written by AI, but it wasn't, and maybe you used AI to help you with the language somewhat, then you want to say that in the paper. Most of those journals allow the use of AI to help with editing the language. Okay, and so I mean, there's a place you can put that, if there's not a box on the that explicitly asks that from the journal, you can write a letter when you submit your manuscript. You can write a message to the editor and explain how you used AI.
Thank you so much. I guess if no one has a burning question to ask, then I guess we are wrapping up this session. Thank you so much again, Shuhui, for Carol, for being so kind, to join us to discuss your paper and prepare the beautiful slides and all the figures and all the explanations and the links to your paper. So I hope everyone had been enjoying reading this paper and really get the most from that paper and this session. And please do build your GenAI literacy and the literacy mentioned in that article, GenAI literacy for research article writing. Yes. So thank you so much again. We are the Applied Linguistics Reading Club, but please keep following us on Facebook and Twitter and X, and consider becoming a member. It's free. So yeah, thank you again. I can't say how grateful I am enough. See you soon next time in our reading club.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.